Hey guys, so in this video I wanted to make a filterable list. So we're going to grab a list of users, top 30 users from the GitHub repo using the Fetch API, and we're just going to style everything with Bootstrap classes. So you can pull in a list of these, and we're going to put them all in some cards and nice responsive little list here. And you can cycle through it. As you type, it'll narrow down elements to show you just these. So wanted to get started with this. I'm just using VS Code here. So we'll start with an index.html file, and then we'll just give it a boilerplate using Emmet with our shortcuts here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this with our live server. And then I'll just get rid of that one. And then we'll just open up our console. Everything should be working. There we go. So why don't we get started by importing our Bootstrap styles. So we'll just get this link here. And I copied that from the Bootstrap CDN on getbootstrap.com, and we'll just title this GitHub Filterable List. Okay. It's going to come in here. I also want to create a JavaScript folder, and inside here we'll have a main.js. And we'll just call this inside here. This is all, we're only using vanilla JavaScript. We're not using any Bootstrap JavaScript source. And then we're going to go to /js and then main.js. We can close this over here. Okay, so I want to get started off. I'm going to use a Bootstrap class in the body. So it's just going to be a BG light. And that will just give us a little bit of a gray color here. Okay, so I want to have a .container or a container class for this. I want to push everything to the center, so I'm going to do text center. I'm going to give this a background of light, and I'm going to give a margin top of 2 just to push everything down a little bit, and I'm going to give some padding on all sides by 5. And those are all just Bootstrap classes. And what I'll do, just do an H1 here, GitHub Users Filterable List. That'll do our H1. And then we'll just do an HR in here to style everything. So that'll give us everything's pushed to the center, pushed down a little bit, and a nice little divider line. Then we'll give us a div, and we'll do input group. We're just going to make an input group, and then we're going to give this a margin bottom of 3 just to push everything down a little bit. And then inside here we're going to have another div with a class of input group prepend, and this is going to give us a little bit of styling before, so we can make sure we have a little styling before our input to label it what we need to. So we'll have a span in here, and we'll give this a class of input group text, and we'll give this in, let's see, that should do it. We'll do enter name to filter by. Oops. So this will just give us a little section here followed by our input group. And then under this div, we are going to have an input, and we'll give it a type of text. Oops. Put type text. We don't need a name, but we are going to give it an ID so we can grab it from our JavaScript, and we'll just give it an ID of filter list. We'll give it a placeholder of username, and then we'll give it a Bootstrap class of form control. So that'll just give us this. This will be what we search by, and we'll just grab it from the DOM. And then the other thing that I want to have in here, here's our standard, there's our end of container. So in here, I just want to have a div with an ID of results, and I'm going to give it a style. I usually don't like to do inline styles, but I am going to give it a style of 50% in here just to make it responsive and just to make sure it's not taking up the whole page with a lot of white space in it. And then I'm also going to give it a margin of auto, and that's going to push everything to the center inside of that. So we'll be able to grab this results div from our DOM and load our cards into it. So that should give us everything we need here. So then we'll work on our JavaScript. We're going to need a few elements here. We're going to do a const results equals document.querySelector, and we're going to pull our results div here, and then we're going to also pull our filter list, and we'll do that with our input, and we'll do filter list here. Okay, so that should be all we need right here. And then we'll just create our event listener, filter list dot add event listener, and we're listening for an input on that input, and we'll just call order list. So we have that, our event listener here, and that's going to give us an error. Actually, let me comment this out. We'll put that in later when we want to order it. Let's first grab our data. So what we'll do is we'll use our fetch API. And what we're going to be fetching is https api.github.com/users. Okay. And this is going to return a promise, so we're going to do .then, and we're going to take our response and we're going to map our response to JSON. And then we're going to have another .then, and we're going to call our data here. And then what we'll do, this is going to give us a callback function inside here. So what we'll do for now is we'll just console log the data to make sure everything's working. Okay, so now we have the logins. We have 30 logins sorted by ID here. So now we can work with our data. We've got our data coming in. Now we can break it down. And instead of console logging the data, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to call a function. So I'm going to call a function called build cards, and we're going to pass in the data. You can do this inside here, but I like to separate my functions. So we'll be able to fetch, and then we'll call a function called build cards. And I'm just going to create an arrow function here. So const build cards equals, and then we're going to take our data here that we passed in here. So we're going to pass that same data in here, and we're just going to build our cards out. So for each user in the list here, we're going to map through those. So we're going to go data for each, and we're going to use this higher order function, and we're going to go for each item, and that's going to give us a callback function. So for each item, we want to create an element called div, and that's just going to put each of these inside this container. We're going to append child to this. So we're going to want to create this. So we're going to use document.create element, and then we're going to create a div element. And this we're going to create an output for. So we want to style this and use our classes here. So I'm going to use a template literal here, and we'll just map out how we want this data, and we'll call each item. So we're going to have a div. We're going to do a closing bracket here. And all we're going to do here is we're going to have an h1. We're going to close that h1. And then inside, we're just going to give this a class. Since we're going to give it a Bootstrap class of card title. We're going to use cards. And actually up here in this div, okay, card title. So we want this as a card title. And inside here, we want to add item.login. So on the top of the title of each card is going to have this login username here to show us who it is. And then I also want to add another div, and I just want to display their avatar picture. So inside of here, all we have to do is create an image tag, and we're going to give it a Bootstrap class of image fluid, another class of rounded, and we'll give it a rounded circle. And then all we want for the source here is we want let's look at our data here. We want each item, we want the avatar URL. So inside here, we'll do item.avatar URL, and that should give us our full list here. And then after this, the other thing, we'll do our closing tag here. I just want to give this a width of 150. And what that's going to do is it's just going to make it smaller. It's going to make it look nice inside of our list. So up here, this is going to be for each item, we're going to have a div, and then I want to put this inside another div. But I want this div right here to have some classes too. So we're going to do div.classList equals, and we'll give this user, card, and margin bottom 2. That just means we're giving a user class that we can pull later for our filterable list. And we're going to put it inside a Bootstrap card, and we're going to use card title for that. So this is going to make everything fit really nicely on our page. So then the last thing we have to do here, this is the end of our output, is what we're going to do div.inner HTML is equal to output. So for every time we do this, we're assigning this to each div element, and then we're just going to grab a hold of our results div and add it as a child. So results.append child, and we're going to pass in our div here. Okay, so we're not getting an image. Why is that? Image class equals image fluid source equals item dot avatar URL width equals 1. Okay. So I forgot my parentheses there. That's very easy to do inside of here when you have to type out all these tags by hand. Okay, so now we have our list here, and you can see they're all in here. What I don't have is I have a little bit of styling problem here. So I want to give on the bottom of each image, I just want to have a little bit of padding. So padding bottom 3 should give us enough. There we go. So now everything's in a nice little card. There we go. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is order our list. And I'm going to uncomment this filter list, and we're still going to be looking for any input. And then we're going to call a function called order list equals to, and then we're going to pass in our event parameter. And what we'll do here is we'll just console log e.target.value so we can see what we're typing in here. So David. So anytime we have a change, it's going to fire this off, and we can read, this is our event parameter, so we can read whatever we're putting in here, Mojo MBO. Okay, so that's working. So what we'll do here is we'll just filter these. So I'm going to create a filter value variable equals e.target.value.to uppercase. And the reason I'm doing to uppercase is to make sure we can type in anything in here and compare it with anything here. So if somebody has an uppercase name, we need to make sure that we can still filter by that, which it doesn't look like they do. But we just want to make sure we cover that case as well. So everything we do is going to be to uppercase. And then we'll have users equal to document.querySelector, that these users up here we're going to want to do. So we're going to want to take them all, query selector all, and we're going to grab everything with the class name of user. And then this is going to return, we'll just console log this out. This is going to grab all of these items, all of these div items that have the class of user. So we've got a list here, a node list that we can iterate through. So we want to users dot for each, and for each user we're going to use an arrow function. We're going to basically run a check, and we're going to display it if it matches what the filter value is, and if not, we're not going to display it. So we're going to move the inline styles, or we're going to assign styles to it. So we're going to say if the user.textcontent.to uppercase dot includes this filter value, and if it does, we're just going to use a ternary operator here. If it does, we want user.style.display, oops, I don't know what happened there, display equal to, if it does include it, we want the style to stay the same. If it doesn't, or, so we're using a ternary operator, we want this, we want user.style.display to equal none. And I'm just going to use I have the prettier extension, so when I do Option Shift F, it's just going to style everything nicely for me. So we're saying if user.textContent, if these include this filter value, then we want to keep the display, and if not, we do not want to display them. So this sets up our list. We can now go through Mojo MBO, and what we're doing is we're just setting the display to none if it doesn't. So we'll look here inside of our results, and you can see as we type Mojo MBO. So everybody is going to have a display of none if we don't find it in the list. And once we don't have anything in the list, it's grabbing that again, and it's going style, display exactly how it should. So we'll do Z, everybody that doesn't have a Z. So that's how you can build a simple filterable list and style it nicely with Bootstrap. And it's really easy. You can use this in a lot of different cases. But if you liked it, like, subscribe, and comment if you'd like me to upload anything else or you have any other ideas for me. Thanks.